Now at 5, Freeman Health System is branching out to Fort Scott, Kansas after that town's ER closed last year. Plus, authorities in Carthage, Missouri investigate a suspicious death. And
the Supreme Court preserves access to the abortion drug mifepristone. I'm Skylar Henry with more on the High Court's unanimous ruling.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Freeman Health System announces it'll establish a presence in the city of Fort Scott, Kansas, following the closure of that town's emergency department. This is KOAM News at 5. I'm Dow Quick. Today's announcement came straight from Freeman's CEO, Paula Baker. She emphasizes the goal is to proceed as quickly as possible. Freeman hopes to be fully established in Fort Scott by April 1st of next year. Freeman expects to take over management of the current emergency facility as well as establish 10 inpatient hospital beds.
Most small towns are suffering, and we are so blessed to have Freeman come after losing Mercy several years ago. And so I know everyone here is thrilled.
When an accident, an illness, or an injury occurs, people need that very close to home. If that doesn't happen, lives can be lost. And so we are very, very invested in Fort Scott, in Bourbon County, and in all of Southeast Kansas.
We're going to have more on today's announcement for you coming up tonight at 6. We have a still developing story out of Carthage as authorities investigate the discovery of a body in a camper trailer. The discovery was made today just before noon on private property on the 600 block of North Main. Authorities closed down North Main and wrapped the investigation scene in police tape. Carthage police are looking into the possibility the body was transported from somewhere else. Authorities say all the people living in a Joplin apartment house escaped unharmed from a house fire there. That fire broke out this morning at a building in 2nd and South Pearl near the downtown area. It was an older house that had been separated into apartments. Authorities say all the people escaped, but that several cats died. Investigators say the fire was accidental. They say it started in the kitchen of one apartment, then spread through the attic. Let's check in now with meteorologist Lindsay Gaffney for a first look at the weather.
We are starting to warm up. Today we got just to about 90 degrees, cooling down 88 currently, and pretty clear skies. We also have some nice breeze going on out there. Temperatures across the region, though, pretty warm. Nowata 92, Sedan 93, Neodesha 93, and if you're in the eastern counties, just a little bit cooler, 87 in Monette, 88 in Joplin. Now, like I said, we do have some gusty winds out there, normally about 10 to 15 miles per hour. But we did see some gusts up to about 20 miles per hour, and we do have a storm rolling in tonight as well, so those winds are ahead of that storm front. Not to mention, we also have a heat advisory still in place until 8 p.m. tonight, mostly just for our northern counties, but all of us are dealing with the heat, so stay hydrated out there, and I'll have more details for you in just a bit.
See you in a few. The U.S. Supreme Court unanimously ruled to preserve access to the widely used abortion medication mifepristone. This was the court's first abortion decision since conservative justices overturned the federal right to an abortion 2 years ago. Skylar Henry is at the Supreme Court with the latest.
The abortion drug mifepristone, used in nearly 2/3 of all U.S. abortions last year, will stay available to patients up to 10 weeks pregnant without having an in-person doctor visit. The 9 justices were unanimous, finding the abortion opponents who brought the case lacked the legal standing to sue the FDA.
It doesn't have anything to do with whether or not abortion is a protected liberty under the Constitution. It has everything to do with these doctors, this medical group, whether or not they could walk into the courthouse doors and say, I was injured enough to be able to move forward with my suit.
President Biden in Italy for the G7 summit praised the decision, but signaled abortion access will be a top issue in November, saying in a statement, it does not change the fact that the right for a woman to get the treatment she needs is imperiled, if not impossible, in many states. Today's ruling allows mail-order pharmacies to continue shipping mifepristone nationwide, but just last month, Louisiana designated the drug a dangerous controlled substance. 14 states are enforcing bans on all stages of abortion, making access to mifepristone difficult.
The data are very, very clear that mifepristone is extremely safe, extremely effective. Over 100 peer-reviewed journal publications have shown this over and over again.
Anti-abortion activists were outside the Supreme Court Thursday, vowing to fight on.
No, they're not saying that abortion pills are safe. They just said the case didn't have standing. So we'll be back with another case with better standing next time.
3 states, Idaho, Kansas, and Missouri, are working to return the issue to the courts, with plaintiffs directly impacted. Skyler Henry, CBS News, the Supreme Court.
Former President Donald Trump today traveled to Washington to meet with House and Senate Republicans. The visit marks the first time the presumptive Republican presidential nominee has traveled to speak with lawmakers since the January 6th attack on the Capitol. Lawmakers inside the meeting say he spoke about his plans to reach independent voters in the fall and his legislative agenda if elected, from tax policy to tariffs. Still ahead, treating a debilitating condition.
New research shows migraine headaches may be growing more intense for many patients. I'm Bradley Blackburn with how doctors say new treatments can help.
Plus, how climate change could be impacting our cardiovascular health. Those stories next in Health Watch. Topping today's Health Watch, a review of hundreds of studies suggest climate change is affecting our cardiovascular health. The research in JAMA Cardiology finds extreme temperatures and hurricanes are strongly linked with increased cardiovascular disease and death from it. Older adults and racial and ethnic populations are disproportionately impacted. June is Migraine Awareness Month, and new research suggests over the past 20 years, the debilitating condition and its impact are getting worse for patients. But as Bradley Blackburn explains, new treatments also offer new hope.
Mimi Frisch recently graduated medical school and became a doctor.
And they really started getting bad when I was in high school.
But since she was a child, she's struggled with her own health challenges.
I often feel like it's really just it's like squeezing my brain.
It took multiple doctors to get the correct diagnosis: migraine headaches that can at times be debilitating.
There have been times when I'm out with friends and I get such a bad headache or migraine that I have to leave and go home and sit in a dark room by myself.
Some 40 million Americans live with migraines, one of the leading causes of disability. Mount Sinai headache specialist Dr. Fred Cohen says data shows by some measures they're getting worse for sufferers.
The impact and burden of migraine, as well as the headache frequency, has been going up.
His study found since 2004, scores on the Migraine Disability Assessment Scale have gone from 22% to 42%. The answers why aren't clear.
Go to your left, go to your right.
But for patients like Frisch, newer migraine medications are providing relief.
It's remarkable how much it's changed my life. I remember the first month that I went where I had 4 weeks without a headache, and that was unbelievable to me.
Dr. Cohen says if migraines last longer than a few hours or are severe, see a doctor.
The vast majority of migraine patients aren't getting adequate treatment. And a lot of it is that, unfortunately, they don't know. And there's a lot of tools.
The pain is real, and so is the promise of treatment. Bradley Blackburn, CBS News, New York.
Migraines affect more women than men, but all patients have seen an increase in frequency and in impact. Having more depression as a young adult could mean worse thinking and memory skills in middle age, especially for Black adults. That's according to a new study in the journal Neurology. The researchers say racial inequalities need to be considered when looking at ways to reduce dementia risk. That is a look at today's health news. A little bit later, heavy rains batter southern Florida, leading to devastating flooding.
And we do have the chance for a storm tonight. We'll talk about that in just a bit. Well, it's another warm day today, but we might have the chance to cool off this evening with an evening storm. Taking a look outside, Indigo Sky Casino and Resort, not a cloud in sight, and it was pretty warm today. I spent some time outside, and we definitely were in the low 90s or upper 80s today. We have a heat advisory still in effect until 8 p.m. tonight for Lynn, Anderson, and Coffee counties, not to mention just outside of our area near Wichita as well. So they are experiencing a heat index in the low hundreds. We're not quite there yet, but we are getting some storms tonight. Hopefully will cool us off at least for the evening time. Tomorrow we're back up into the warmer temperatures and low 90s. When we get into the season, heat-related illnesses are possible. We're only at that low 90 threshold, but in the next couple of weeks and months, we're going to start to warm up into the triple digits. So just stay hydrated out there. Heat is the #1 weather-related killer in the U.S., and it's a silent killer. You don't realize it's happening. Stay hydrated. Try not to stay out too long. We've got heat risk potential, so moderate risk for most of our counties, especially if you are in southeast Kansas or Oklahoma as well. Mostly our southeastern counties are going to be more minor. Now tomorrow, that shifts a little bit, so the rest of us are going to be in that moderate heat risk potential, and then on Saturday we really start to get into that major issue with heat, because Saturday is going to be our hottest day on the forecast so far. We do have a couple chances of rain, and it's a very low chance. We've got less than 20% chance for tonight. We've got that isolated storm passing by about 11 p.m. till about 1 a.m. And then we've got another chance tomorrow afternoon and in the evening hours. So we'll go ahead and take a look at that. So what starts off as pretty widespread just shifts into a one isolated storm as it passes through Kansas City. What we saw yesterday was it was more moving towards southeast Kansas, but now it's shifted off to the east. So mostly just Missouri getting hit. Still, the same thing happens as it moves further south. It really starts to dissipate. So we're really not experiencing any severe weather, just maybe some rain in the evening time. And then we'll pass through this tomorrow afternoon. We do get up to about 92 tomorrow, but if you are in the western counties or just maybe even southwestern, Veneta, Tulsa, getting up into the upper 90s. It's going to be a hot one tomorrow. Not as hot as Saturday, but still we're getting pretty warm in the next couple of days. So we've also got another chance Friday night into early Saturday morning. As of right now, it's shifting a little bit more north, so just outside of our area, but we are going to get some wind gusts with this because as you can see, it is more of a wind event as it passes through Kansas City, and still in our northern counties may get some rain as well. Nevada and our eastern counties, Stockton as well. Those will pass by, get another chance by Saturday afternoon as well, and then we're going to stay dry for another couple days after that. We do have another chance of an scattered shower, on Wednesday, but outside of that, we're remaining pretty dry, pretty warm. We're getting up to 94 on Saturday and the low 90s pretty much for the rest of the week, not to mention our low temperatures only in the low 70s, so we're really not cooling off that much.
I see one high of 89 on Wednesday, so that's encouraging.
Those rain showers may cool us down a little bit, which is nice.
Yeah, maybe not quite hitting 90.
I love those days.
You bet, thanks. Hey, residents of southern Florida, they're dealing with very dangerous weather conditions. Widespread flash flooding and rainfall of historic proportions make getting around nearly impossible in a lot of places. Officials urge people to stay off the roads, and 5 counties are under a state of emergency. Manuel Mayorkas is in Hollywood, Florida.
A relentless storm system continues to pummel South Florida, causing life-threatening flash flooding. On the state's east coast, the Miami-Fort Lauderdale area saw rainfall rates of over 3 inches per hour on Wednesday, blurring the boundary between land and sea, fish even swimming through the streets.
Look at my pants. Look at me. I'm wet. Every time I walk in the street, the water's right here.
Knee-deep waters meant many residents waded, kayaked, or even wakeboarded their way through neighborhoods. Despite warnings from local officials, the floodwaters did not deter some drivers who continued to venture into seemingly impassable roadways, while portions of the critical I-95 South in Broward County were temporarily shut down. And intense winds up to 60 miles per hour ripped apart trees. The severe weather continued to snarl airline travel at South Florida's major travel hubs, with more than 1,200 flights impacted in the region on Wednesday.
I had to change car reservations, get a new hotel reservation. It just kept getting delayed. So I ended up just switching flights.
On the other side of the state, parts of Florida's Gulf Coast were in cleanup mode Wednesday. Sarasota County saw as much as 10 inches of rain, including nearly 4 inches in just 1 hour, a once-in-a-thousand-year event.
It was a unique event, and for it to occur as early in storm season as it did, it does help us know where we need to tweak some things in the future.
Broward County Schools, the 6th largest school district in the country, has decided to cancel classes today due to this flooding emergency, and a reminder that NOAA is forecasting an above-average hurricane season. Manuel Bojorquez, CBS News, Hollywood, Florida.
Coming up, we're going to learn how climate change is wreaking havoc on olive oil producers. Topping today's Consumer Watch, if you're miserable at work, well, you're in good company. A new Gallup survey finds more than half of workers in the U.S. and around the world are disengaged from their jobs, with 50% of American employees watching for or actively seeking new jobs. 49% of workers in the U.S. and Canada report daily stress, with women experiencing even higher levels than their male counterparts.
When you have organizations that are poorly run, you can see that the amount of unnecessary stress that is added to a human being's life is tremendous. In fact, somebody who is actively disengaged at work compared to someone who is engaged at work, there is a 60% difference in terms of how much daily stress that they are experiencing.
Gallup's CEO adds one of the single biggest contributors to that stress is when employees don't have the things they need to do their jobs. That, he says, comes down to management. We have some bad news for lovers of olive oil. The main regions that produce the golden liquid are under threat from climate change. Ian Lee reports.
This parched plot of land produces olives. At least it should. But row after row of trees are failing to grow the green fruit.
Well, the main reason is the climate change.
Rafael Barao turns his olives into oil. But years of drought and extreme heat have cultivated a failed crop. Many flowers turn brown and die before olives have a chance to grow, frustrating farmers.
The lack of water and then bad weather during the blossom and in general, heat waves. The conditions and climatic conditions are not good.
Barao's struggle is also being felt at the supermarket. Since 2020, the price of olive oil has more than tripled, while demand surges around the world.
Very, very expensive. It's too expensive.
There is some hope. Heavy rains hit Spain in March, but it'll take a lot more to keep this region green and golden olive oil flowing. Ian Lee, CBS News, London.
Now, if that wet weather does continue in Spain, growers are hopeful prices could drop in November after the harvest. 4 more states have joined the U.S. government's landmark antitrust suit against Apple. According to a court filing, Indiana, Massachusetts, Nevada, and Washington have joined that lawsuit. That brings the total number of non-federal plaintiffs to 19 states plus the District of Columbia. The U.S. government and the states sued Apple in March. They accused the iPhone maker of illegally monopolizing the smartphone market. A final check of the forecast next. Up next on the CBS Evening News, how a farm's innovative way of growing food helps keep school kids from going hungry. Then on KOAM News at 6, we're going to have more on Freeman Health System's plan for a new facility in Fort Scott. Plus, Oklahoma lawmakers react to the state's Supreme Court ruling on reparations case for survivors of the Tulsa Race Massacre. And we're going to meet a Neodesha, Kansas high school graduate soon to be playing golf at the Division I level. Stay with us for the CBS Evening News and then KOAM News at 6. In a little over 30 minutes, the 60th annual Bushwhacker Days kicks off in Nevada, Missouri. We're going to take a live look at the square. There you go. Today's events include opening ceremonies, a carnival, a cookout, and live music, maybe a little friendship under the shade of a tree. Bushwhacker Days continues through Saturday with other events, including a baby contest, scavenger hunt, and a parade. All kinds of exciting things going on this time of year.
Yeah.
It's going to be a bit warm out there, but tolerable.
Yeah, it is getting pretty warm. By Saturday, we're going to be in the mid-90s, but we do have a chance of a storm tonight passing in overnight hours, and again tomorrow afternoon. Then after that, we've got a long stretch of sunny days and really warm temperatures. So watch out for that. Stay hydrated.
Yes, good advice. Thanks for joining us. The CBS Evening News is next, and of course, we're going to be right back here for KOAM News at 6. Let's make it a great evening.